Welcome to This Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here with us today because we are going to completely dismantle one of the biggest, most persistent myths out there about what it actually takes to succeed. You know, we constantly trick ourselves into thinking that transformation requires this massive, dramatic leap, right? Like a sudden stroke of absolute genius or winning the lottery of luck. But what if the secret isn't in some massive overnight change at all? What if it's hidden in something incredibly small? Today, we are diving deep into the true power of consistency, and I promise you, by the end of this explainer, you are going to view your daily routine in a completely new light. Let's get right into it.
First up, Section 1, the trap of motivation, and exactly why that initial excitement always seems to fade. Okay, we are all painfully familiar with this cycle, aren't we? You watch this incredibly inspiring piece of content late at night, you feel this massive surge of energy, and you make these huge, ambitious plans to just completely overhaul your whole life. And then, what happens? You wake up the next morning, it's cold, you're totally exhausted, and bam, you fall right back into the exact same old habits. There's just this massive disconnect between our expectations and reality. See, what people think success requires is usually stuff totally out of their immediate control. We're talking immense natural talent, a ton of starting money, or those fleeting bursts of massive nightly ambition. But the real requirement, it's profoundly unglamorous. It is just daily consistency. It's small, repeated efforts. We literally waste years waiting for the absolute perfect time to start, or we exhaust ourselves constantly searching for shortcuts, completely missing the fact that real, lasting change is built quietly, day by day. Actually, this quote perfectly hits the nail on the head. The biggest problem with most people is not lack of talent. The real problem is inconsistency. Think about that for a second. People start out with so much excitement, but the minute life inevitably gets hard, and it always does, they just stop. Inconsistency is the true villain of our story here. It's not that you aren't capable, and it's definitely not that you don't have the skills. It's simply that the effort just isn't sustained.
So moving on to Section 2, the one-page strategy. Let's take a look at Sam's daily habit.
To truly understand how we can actually defeat this inconsistency, let's look at a really practical example. Meet Sam. Sam was a 30-year-old tea seller living in this incredibly peaceful village surrounded by green fields. Sounds beautiful, right? Well, despite the scenery, Sam's life was incredibly stressful. He worked out of this tiny, rundown stall made of wood and rusted metal sheets. Just look at this timeline. It illustrates his grueling reality perfectly. Way before sunrise, he's up lighting the stove in the freezing cold fog. Fast forward 14 hours later, his hands are completely rough from years of intense labor, and he's tiredly counting these very small earnings. And then in the evening, he just sits quietly in his rusted stall. It's a tough cycle, and it brilliantly illustrates that hard work alone just isn't enough. Sam worked relentlessly for 14 hours every single day, yet he was completely, utterly stuck. Customers would sometimes literally insult him, and a lot of folks in the village genuinely believed he was just destined to stay poor forever. He was putting in the time, absolutely, but without a strategy for actual growth, he was just spinning his wheels.
But then, everything changed on a rainy evening. Sam was sitting in his stall, listening to the rain and just thinking, this cannot be my whole life. At that exact moment, an old, wise traveler with a super calm demeanor walked in and asked for a cup of tea. He noticed Sam looking completely exhausted and just asked him a really simple question. He said, "Do you read books?" Sam kind of laughed it off, saying, "Poor people don't have time for books." But the traveler looked right at him and delivered this striking piece of advice. He said, "Poor people cannot afford to ignore books." And with that, he reached right into his bag and handed Sam an old, dusty, yellowed book.
Now, here is the kicker. The traveler didn't tell Sam to read the whole book that night. He didn't say, hey, read 10 pages or even a full chapter. He gave Sam one simple, completely unexpected rule. The number one, read exactly one page. Or dedicate one focused hour every single night, no matter how absolutely exhausted you are. I mean, it seems almost too simple, right? How in the world can one single page change a lifetime of struggle?
Well, the traveler answered Sam's confusion with this beautiful metaphor. One drop fills a bucket, one step finishes a journey, one page can change the way a man thinks. Wow. This is the fundamental mindset shift we've been talking about. It moves us entirely away from demanding those sudden, dramatic, overnight changes, and it asks us to really trust in the slow, undeniable compound effect of daily action. You see, a man changes his future the absolute moment he changes what he does daily.
All right, Section 3, the compound effect, and how these slow changing habits take root.
So implementing this, it wasn't easy at all. We are in the messy middle now.
Sam started reading under this tiny little lantern every single night. Sometimes his English was pretty weak, so he had to read super slowly. And to make matters worse, the villagers noticed and started heavily mocking him. They'd laugh and say things like, "Oh, Sam wants to become a professor now," or "Hey, books do not fill empty stomachs." But here is what's really fascinating. The real changes didn't actually happen to his wallet first. They happened to his mind. Sam's 1-hour habit began to fundamentally rewire his brain. He learned extreme patience. He developed real emotional control. When an angry customer would yell at him about their TVing late, Sam didn't argue back like he used to. He stayed completely calm. He improved his communication and began to really study how successful people actually think differently. He realized that poor decisions ultimately create poor lives.
And those invisible, internal psychological shifts, they directly translated into these exact methodical external actions. Step 1, he simply started cleaning his tea stall better. It's a small thing, but it mattered. Step 2, he began speaking incredibly politely to every single customer. Step 3, he started saving tiny amounts of money daily. And step 4, he practiced the simple English sentences he was learning from those books. Slowly but surely, all that mockery from the village started turning into genuine respect. Not because he was suddenly rich, but because his everyday actions carried real discipline, and his face carried patience.
I want to just pause here on a very stark truth, because Sam eventually opened this small reading corner with old books right next to his tea stall. And again, the villagers laughed. They were like, "A tea seller opening a reading corner? That's ridiculous." But Sam totally ignored them. Why? Because people who never try to improve themselves often attack those who do. It is just a defense mechanism. If you're starting a new habit right now, you might face that exact same fear of judgment. Just recognize that their mockery is usually just a reflection of their own inability to control their own habits.
Fast forward to one winter night, Sam read a line in his book that hit him incredibly hard. And honestly, it's the core philosophical realization of this entire explainer. Big success is usually hidden inside small, repeated actions. That is huge. Small daily improvements are infinitely more powerful than sudden, flashy success. The crazy thing is, real transformation is almost entirely invisible while it's actually happening. Finally, Section 4, Building Your Future, and the True Reality of Success.
So the village changed slowly, and so did Sam. Years passed by quietly, and because Sam protected his 1-hour reading habit like absolute treasure, his tiny rested stall eventually transformed into this clean, proper, highly popular cafe right on the highway. Travelers stopped there specifically just to talk to the wise tea seller. And this reveals the true reality of success. Your future is not built in one dramatic moment for the whole world to see. No way. It is built in the shadows. It's built in small, daily actions that absolutely nobody notices. It's built when you are studying while others are wasting their time gossiping. It's built when you continue the routine long after you've lost your initial motivation. It requires sticking to the routine rather than just chasing immediate results and practicing patience instead of demanding immediate confidence.
And it comes full circle. Years later, despite all his massive success, Sam never stopped his 1-hour habit. One summer evening, sitting outside his large cafe, he noticed a tired young man staring sadly at the road. The boy desperately wanted to change his life, but said absolutely nothing worked. So Sam asked him about his daily habits, went inside, and brought out that exact same old dusty book the traveler had given him all those years ago. He handed it to the boy and passed the torch. He told him, read 1 page every night, because 1 page, daily, can quietly defeat years of failure. Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, and to the absolute most important question you will face. I want you to honestly ask yourself, how many focused hours do you give daily to your future? Seriously, are you just waiting for a magical burst of motivation to save you? Or are you willing to start your 1 daily hour today? It's time to stop waiting for the perfect moment. Take your 1 step, read your 1 page, protect your 1 hour. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.